Hey guys, Stephanie here. For those of you who don't know me, I am a shadow work facilitator in Vancouver and online, and I teach conscious relationship training workshops, and I lead women's groups around shadow work. So today I am responding to a message that I received on Instagram. Please send me your messages. I love answering them. And we're going to go through it here because this woman's message touched me. I've had the same experiences, and I know that a lot of the people that I work with, men and women alike, have the same kind of experiences. So I wanted to talk about that today in the context of our own personal inner growth work and conscious relationship. So here we go. I'm currently feeling wounded in my intimate relationship. I love him very much. However, I can kind of only be around him for a certain amount of time as he is similar to my mom, energetically and in regards to his personality. So, okay, we're going to break this down because there's so much. It's a long message and there's a lot in every sentence. Okay, intimate relationships, first of all. Intense. Everything that's going to come up for you in life, in your personality, in your ego, is going to come up in intimate relationships. All of your past family stuff, everything you feel inadequate about internally, all of this stuff is going to be thrown up in your face. Every self-protection mechanism that we've got to avoid emotional pain, which can easily become physical pain, emotional overwhelm, physical overwhelm, all of that's going to come up in intimate relationship. And I think we've got this idea that intimate relationships are supposed to be smooth sailing. I mean, this is sort of trite at this point. We know it's not true, but we deeply want it to be true, right? We know there's going to be conflict, we know there's going to be discomfort, but we still are hoping for this one magical bean that's going to grow a vine with a giant love at the top. And it's unfortunately a bit more mundane than that and a bit more work than that. So I appreciate you sharing this with me. Thank you. Yeah, you can only be around him a certain amount of time. And guess what? He can only be around you a certain amount of time. And anytime we're fooling ourselves with this kind of draining battery relationship where we want to be around each other all the time, that is a whole lot of codependence and a whole lot of denial of self. We actually need time to ourselves. And it's that anxious, cloying thing of wanting to be with people, which is, I think, the confusing bit. We think that that means that we want to be with somebody all the time. I would argue that we don't want to be with anybody all the time. We don't even want to be with ourselves all the time. And we just figure it out. We tamp down a lot of resentment and we ignore a lot of our own truth because we don't want to hurt people and say, hey, I need a break right now. I need some time to myself right now. We make these things mean a lot. If somebody says, hey, I want some alone time right now, it's really easy for us to take that personally and make it mean, oh, you don't want to be with me? What does that mean about me? And of course, as we do our inner work and learn a bit more about conscious relationship, we learn that it has nothing to do with us. We're not being rejected, but all those biological mechanisms that signal rejection and fear and fight or flight, all of those come into effect. When we talk about being conscious in relationship, we're talking about being conscious to those biological responses and choosing differently. So yes, you can only be around him for a certain amount of time. Another thing I want to say about that is that depending on the kind of energy that you have as a person, especially men and women, I know a lot of my lady friends have mentioned this, that men's energy can be a lot. Think about, like, I don't know, rugged little boys who are super playful. I'm like, I love that when I love it, and I need to get the hell away from it when I need to get away from it, right? Needing time to yourself, needing time to sink in with your own energy, needing quiet time. Totally normal. Doesn't mean anything about you or your partner. It just means that you need some quiet time. That's it. Um, Energetically and personality wise, this guy is similar to your mom. That also is a pretty normal thing for us to experience in relationships. We are often inadvertently trying to recreate a family system dynamic. So if there are aspects of your mom's personality that you find reflected in your partner now, it's great to look at those and see what aspects of that make you comfortable, what aspects of that drive you crazy. What else do I want to say about that? Parents and family of origin dynamics play a huge role in what we want relationships to look like in our lives, or what we expect them to look like, which is not the same as what we want them to look like. So we might subconsciously be recreating patterns that were comfortable and familiar in our family, but that we actually don't feel good about. And we find ourselves recreating those patterns in our relationships, our romantic partnerships later in life. Again, talking about relating consciously means shedding light on those questions. What am I doing and why am I doing it? And deciding what you want to do moving forward. So yeah, I'm not surprised that he reminds you of your mom. Probably there's a pattern with this and your mom, which, judging from the rest of the message, maybe is to do with boundaries and self-expression. Also super normal, and I will get to that in just a moment. Okay, so next she says, I am a very internal, quite free-living human being. I don't like conflict and I love space. I find connection, too much connection, difficult. I need time to feel my emotions. Yes, girl, me too. I am internal. I'm also very external. But, and I know I'm not unique in this, a lot of external stuff after a while makes me want to just spend 3 days in bed alone. And that for me is learning to balance my boundaries and my energy as well. I'm a pretty high energy person, but I tend to give it away. Not in a way where I need to protect it, just in a way that it's fun and exciting, and then I need some downtime afterwards. Not liking conflict and loving space. It's interesting that they're in the same sentence because they don't go together. I mean, some people like conflict, but I'm going to say broadly, who likes conflict? Like, we all just want to have a nice, comfortable time. But conflict is a reality of life. The stuff that's difficult about conflict is not so much the conflict itself or even the feelings that arise from it, although those are significant. The issue with conflict is that we fear rejection ourselves, and we fear that the person we're in conflict with feels rejected by us, and that that's going to create a larger conflict beyond just the feeling of disagreement or whatever it is that's happening in the moment. A larger conflict in the style of, we will kick you out of the tribe and leave you to the wolves, and you will die in the forest by yourself. We are trying to avoid that at all costs, and we've developed biological mechanisms that prevent us from that danger. And one of those is the ego. So disliking conflict, especially in primary partnership, where conflict serves more in that feeling of my life will end if I have this conflict. Conflict is something that you need to get comfortable with. Not in a big fighting way, but in the way that you're going to have different ideas from people sometimes. You're going to have different needs and different interests. And you need to be able to express that and fulfill those needs and interests, even if they're in conflict with people who love you, because you have one life and you want to live it. Sometimes you might decide that you're going to put your needs and interests aside in favor of something like a relationship. But that's a choice you're making from a value system, not from just a fear of conflict, right? You're choosing, instead of conflict in that moment, you're choosing to give up X, Y, or Z, or sacrifice X, Y, or Z, or compromise whatever it is. So that's different. We can't avoid conflict. We can avoid external conflict, but that just brings the conflict inwards. So you're going to be having it. The best thing to do is to learn how you feel, how to express yourself in a healthy way, so that you can experience that conflict in a different way. Loving space. You love space, and too much connection is difficult. So, okay, a bunch I want to say about this, because there's more than just the boundaries and the energy stuff to do with connection being difficult. And we don't talk a lot about good feelings being too much. And I feel this tremendously as a person with really big feelings, physically overwhelming sensations of feelings. I experience difficulty with good feelings as well. So a lot of love is overwhelming. I'm like, I just need to be alone and not deal with this connection right now because it's too much. And I'm learning how to manage those big feelings in my body because, of course, I do want connection. So balancing, yes, there is sometimes too much connection, and alone time and recharging time is needed. But also there is this issue of, am I actually in a place where I want to be? Am I actually spending my energy among people and in ways that feel good to me? Does this connection feel good and I'm just overwhelmed and need time to recharge? Or is this actually a connection that doesn't feel good to me, that doesn't serve me in life, and that I need to maybe draw some boundaries around? Okay. And the last bit of that was needing time to feel your emotions. Yes. So, okay, I was bitching about this morning because I'm so annoyed that no one just knew how to deal with feelings when I was little. I mean, this is now, you can't look back with new eyes on old life and think, oh, it would have been this easy, but that's what I'm going to do just for a minute. Feelings, sensations, your body as a notification system, this is so basic. If we weren't all afraid of our feelings, I imagine that somebody could have at some point said to me, hey kiddo, you're having a big feeling. That's okay, it's normal. Here's what this might look like, and here's what you can do about it. And then I wouldn't have turned it into this enormous thing. You know, the sensation of a feeling in your body is pretty innocuous, it's short-lived, it's not overwhelming. But the moment a feeling starts coming up for me, it's body, it's head, it's both at once, and that's too much. So in the face of a feeling, my body will actually create this protection mechanism of overwhelm so that I don't have to feel the feeling at all. I do not desire that in my life, for big feelings or small ones. And this takes a lot of work to move through. So I hope to teach some people now that your feelings are normal, that you will have them, there's a way through them. Just like have a seat and feel the feeling. Try to get out of your head. Try not to make it mean things. Don't get into the story of the feeling. Just feel the sensation in your body. Okay, that's the preface for my bitching. Needing time to feel your emotions in that context is so normal. None of us know how to have feelings. And actually, oh, I wish I had a banana. At some point I'll do the toddler banana that I saw in Whole Foods one day that really illustrated this for me. He got the banana. Okay, let's pretend this Palo Santo is a banana, okay? So baby's just sitting there. Mom hands the baby banana. Yum, 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 yum. 85 things happened with this little chunk of banana in 4 seconds. And that's the way humans have feelings. Only we've been taught by observation or by direct learning from people telling us what to do, that our feelings are too much, they're overwhelming, blah, blah, blah. Whatever message a person who doesn't know what a feeling is and how to get through it, whatever method they've given you to not bother with the feeling is what you've taken on. And socially, we've taken this on to a tremendous degree where most of us can't identify what we're feeling. We'll often look externally, oh, what are you guys feeling? What should I be feeling? Which is a normal human mechanism. For babies, I would say not so much for adults. If we're over caregiver types, we definitely are not going to know what our feelings are. This tends to be a little more externally sourced for women, really generally speaking, and also when I speak about gender, I'm speaking very broadly. Men tend to be internally sourced. If you ask them if they're hungry, they look inside and see that they're hungry and they say that they're hungry. If you ask women if they're hungry, super general, don't get mad. Generally, a woman will look around and wonder if she's hungry. We tend to look more for external sources. And again, biologically, this makes sense. Men out hunting, women creating society. We need to look outward in different ways and connect with people in different ways, or we did, or I don't know. Nobody knows what the hell's going on. That's fine. But needing time to feel your emotions, if you look at that context, just makes all the sense in the world. Lady who sent me the video, I sent you a list of feelings and needs from the Nonviolent Communication Center, and I recommend that to everybody. The list of needs and wants and feelings that we've got is lengthy, and we often cannot access this information. For myself, I know it used to take me about 3 days to sort of figure out how I felt about something. Now I can pretty much do it as it's happening. And that's an actual practice. That figuring out what you feel and how to express it is work that you need to do if that's a goal that you have, to know what you're feeling and be able to express it. And it sounds self-centered, and it is. And the more that we know ourselves, the better we are at helping other people know themselves. I really can't say enough about how you changing yourself and getting to know yourself will benefit every human you come into contact with. So do keep that in mind, especially for the caregivers who really are looking outward at helping other people instead of themselves. I promise you, you're going to be helping those people by doing your work. So yeah, take the time that you need to feel your feelings. Know that that's normal. Know that if you want to shrink that amount of time, you will accomplish that by doing some work. Okay, so back to the letter. So we've been talking about connecting, needing some time away from this dude. Now he is on the other side. He loves to be with me, not particularly connect, but just have me around. And if he likes to connect, it's more because he wants to be heard and share his internal world. He's got a big heart, but has trouble understanding me or even listening. Okay, what do I want to say about this? So most of us in relationship are codependent. We are looking for that partner to complete us, to close the loop of whatever it is that we've been missing in life. We're wanting them to interact with us and know us on a level that we often don't know ourselves. And it sounds like you guys might have different attachment styles. So the ways that we like to spend time with each other will also differ, depending on our family of origin and what we've gotten used to time meaning. I tend to be more of a task and project oriented person. So if I don't know what we're doing and why we're doing it, I'm just going to feel adrift and weird. Just spending time with someone for me is difficult. There are people in my life who we end up in that role over, enormous amounts of time. Like one of my best friends I've known for 20 something years, and we can obviously just hang out. I understand the context of what that looks like. I have trouble in primary partnership. There's a lot of go and task orientedness in my family. So if I don't know what we're doing, I'm confused. It sounds like you might be that way, and he might be more of the sort of the hang around guy. And these are valuable conversations to have. Just even so simple as, what do you want time spent together to look like? What do you want out of a relationship? We assume that we have the same ideas about these things, and we really don't. And it's worthwhile having those conversations. It also would behoove all of us to learn our love languages. If you Google 5 love languages, that will tell you how you prefer to receive love and also how you give love naturally. There's a few different ways, like gifts and acts of service and touch. It's great to know how we are, and it's great to know how our partners are, because often you'll discover that he's giving you love in some way that you don't recognize, and vice versa. Those are good conversations to have. Him having trouble understanding you is an interesting one. There could be a lot of reasons for that. Typically, when we're not feeling heard or understood, there's some way in which we contribute to that, which usually is withholding ourselves and withholding our truth. I would wager from your letter that it sounds like you're not yet super familiar with your feelings and with speaking your truth, or even knowing what your truth is, and that's typically a fairly moving target for most of us. So it makes sense that you would feel misunderstood if you're having trouble explaining how you are, or if you're feeling like you shouldn't be explaining how you are. Okay, he's quite self centered and deep. Big thinker, big emotions, loves physical contact. So, in a nutshell, quite outward, and I am very much inward, slow and subtle. Now I find myself loving him and also feeling drained by him. My mom is very similar, and I have a similar feeling when I'm around him and when I was around my mom as a child, feeling overwhelmed by their big personality, not even feeling myself. I feel contracted. Totally. Um, so, what you're describing here is being on different pages and feeling like you don't have room to express yourself, which again makes sense in that overwhelming large personality that people have. We can easily recede into that and feel like we don't need to be seen and heard. It sounds like the universe might be calling you to be a bit more outward, not necessarily with your energy, but perhaps with your expression. Um, I wonder what it might feel like to take those few days that you need of downtime between spending time with these people, to really connect with who you are and how you want to express. Maybe there's some issue that comes up for you while you're with them and you need a few days to recharge and think about that. Figuring out your boundaries around whatever those issues might be, ways that feel good to express yourself and to get your needs met. Those are very valuable, and those don't need to be outwardly directed to your mom or to your boyfriend. You can get these needs met yourself in your own space and time, and in that way you can feel just as self-expressed as if you were expressing with them. The important thing is getting your needs met. It doesn't necessarily matter the context and if it's actually with these people or not. You being inward and him being outward, maybe a really nice duality. Or maybe you want somebody inward. I think we tend to imagine we need people who are like us in order to have a good partnership, and that's often not the case. Often we're complementary. And it could just be a matter of you valuing your own needs and energy and saying, hey, overwhelming, loud dude who needs a lot of attention, I need a break right now. And that's totally okay. And your inwardness is just as useful as his outwardness. You don't need to have a big personality to be impactful in your own life, in your own relationships. The thing I really want you to know is that whoever you are is whoever you are, and that's a beautiful thing. Feeling drained by people is normal, and again is an issue of boundaries. Sometimes we're just giving people more than we have, and we don't need to do that, and there's ways to not do it. It just takes work and focus. Okay, I feel contracted. Of course, there are many times that are great, but on an energetic level, it's challenging for me. I guess what I'm asking myself is where can I grow, and where am I still so wounded that growth is not possible currently? How do I know if a relationship is possible? Okay, so things are good and things are bad. This is a cycle. It will go round and round, and things will get better and worse and better and worse, but there's no solid through line. There's no magical linear path where we're going to meet this partner and things are just always going to be good. Same with attraction. Attraction and repulsion are two sides of the same coin. And people who we find gorgeous and magical, we will at some point find ugly and boring. That's just the rule, and it doesn't matter how pretty you are, it's true. So avoid looking at, do I need this whole big picture to be perfect, or should I dump this guy? This is a circle, and if you're talking about growing and inner work, there's going to be a lot of shifts and changes happening within you. And as a result, there are going to be a lot of shifts and changes happening in your relationship. whether or not he does any of this work has no bearing whatsoever. This is entirely internal to you, and it will fold out into your life. So this question of where can I grow and where am I still so wounded that growth is not possible currently? Um, Growth is not like a destination. Wounds do not inhibit growth. Healing work is growth. Um, so this notion that you might be so wounded that you can't grow just doesn't make sense. You are wounded and therefore you are growing. It's just an inevitability. How do you know if a relationship is possible? Well, it just is. Relationships are a choice. They will just happen, and then you decide whether you want to be in them or you don't. I'm actually going to read the rest of this because there's some other bits that pertain here. How do I know if a relationship is possible? I have slowed things down after I'd initially broken up with him. We're trying it again. It's not fair on him either, as he's all in and I am unsure. How can I love someone so much and yet find it difficult to be with them all the time? In fact, it's the only way. You will love somebody so much and you will find it difficult to be with them all the time because you don't what do you want to be with all the time? That maybe your heartbeat and your breath. Other than that, give me a fucking break. Okay, how do I know if a relationship is possible? You know because you're in the relationship right now. And maybe parts of it feel good and maybe parts feel bad. That again is normal for a relationship. Slowing things down, trying things. So I guess what I want to get around to here is that he's all in. So I mentioned in the messages that we exchanged reading the book Attached. Someone being all in is wonderful and important and committed, and it can also be a codependent freak show. So I think it's great that you've got a man who is committing and he is all in. If he's operating from his wounds and he just needs cloyingly to be with you all the time, that's a very different feeling than a man who's centered and just knows what he wants. And you don't need to worry about this. Is it unfair? He's all in. I'm still uncertain. You don't need to be certain. He's certain. That's great. That doesn't mean that you need to be. You're allowed to take your time to feel what you need to feel. And at the same time, he's allowed to take his time, right? So if he suddenly decides he's not okay with you being uncertain, that's his choice to make. You don't need to make your choices based on what he thinks and feels. You can take your time, learn what your feelings are. And your uncertainty just means that you're alive and you're paying attention. Especially as somebody who is coming to know their feelings and to know what's true for them, take it super slow. Certainty is evasive, and it's a choice. You had indicated to me that you're figuring out what's true for you and what's your wounds. That's a long path, and I would just suggest that you avoid certainty. Certainty is so shifting. At some point there will come a choice where you'll recognize enough of yourself that you can go, yes, I am deciding to be with this man come hell or high water. Not abuse. If you're being abused, please take steps. But generally speaking, as you get closer to yourself, you can then start making those commitments and know what actually feels good through all of the things that feel bad, right? Through all of those little life events that are going to feel super icky. You can feel good and decisive in the long-term choices that you've made for yourself from your highest inner authority, as opposed to from your egoic wounds and fears, which is the way most of us are living, right? Most of us are living based on fears and short-term needs. Living consciously is about moving beyond that and closer to that higher inner authority and making choices from that space. I think that's sort of it. How can I love someone so much and yet find it so difficult to be with them all the time? Yeah, so the times when it doesn't feel difficult to be with them, I wonder what those times feel like. I wonder if you were comfortably taking all the time that you felt you actually needed to regulate your body, to have your alone time, to generate your own energy, and to learn how to use it effectively. I wonder how you would feel about the good times with him when you're coming from that place. I think that that's it for now. So, thank you for your letter and your questions. I am happy to answer your questions. If you want to DM me at where there, at Tao of Self, on Instagram. You can also find me on Facebook. Yeah, send me your questions about inner work, about conscious relationship. Um, I'm happy to answer all of your questions. Uh, maybe not all of them. I'm happy to answer whichever questions I feel like answering. How's that?